Deep Mindfulness Collective. This right here, right? Wait for it. Wait for it. Now, is the joy of being a live stream coming to you live from Brooklyn, New York. Folks, very delighted to be here with you as always. Let me know here in the chit chat if how you're doing. That's always nice to know. Where you are and what you're grateful for. I'm in Brooklyn. What am I grateful for? Let's see here. Lovely friend. Oops, that's not how you spell balance. Faith that things balance out. Those are the two things I'm grateful for. Things tend to balance out. You know, if things are really tough, which they can be, they have been the last few years, they tend to balance out, you know? So, what's the point of all things here? We have someone giving a big old comment here. Okay, this is, it's hard to find unbiased reporting, so this is spam. Everything gets drowned out, ideology, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay, so this looks like a bunch of spam. Thank you. Oh, wait. Bethany. Oh, I see. This is not spam. This is our poet laureate back from the dead. Let's see here. I always see it looked so close to being like spam just because the subject seems so particular. But it's not. It is our poet laureate. Let's see. Let's have our Pooter read our poem here from Will Alexander Bethany. Oops, that's the wrong button. It is this. And let's have a poem.
These days it's hard to find any unbiased news reporting. Everything gets drowned in ideologically driven noise and it's hard to separate fact from fiction. However, that ends now with the launch of MassiveShoulders.com. At MassiveShoulders.com you can find news reporting from a variety of journalists that have passed our unbiased reporter shoulder test, delivering unbiased news and commentary straight to your inbox every goddamn day.
Great.
MassiveShoulders.com.
Lovely. Well, geez Louise, thank you for that. We're all very appreciative for that launch right here on our live stream. That is an honor and a half. Thank you. Glad to see you again, Will Alexander. Great to see you. It is not spam. I agree. Brooklyn, this is Jean here from Brooklyn. Grateful for a nearly finished project. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Nick says, yes, almost in time. Grateful for Will Alexander's return, as am I, even though it's close. Unbiased news, the news. Yeah, exactly. It's always the news that says it calls themselves unbiased. Okay, this is like such a not hot, this is such like a cold take. Like, it's like, of course, this is so obvious. But it does bother me that people, I mean, it's funny because I feel like, you know, the right is always like, relativism is bad. Like, if you get into the ideology, they'll be like, relativism bad. You can't have relativism and whatever. But it seems like a very relativistic approach to, yes, there is always some bias in any thing that occurs. Like, there's going to be some bias. So therefore, we can be the most biased, and it's just normal. It's like, oh, I guess that is a way that you could view that situation. That's frustrating. Okay, folks, we're going to be meditating here for 25 whole minutes, and I also want to, I need to send someone a quick note here, 2 notes, real quick. So get yourself ready for the meditation, and let me know what else, if anyone else is here, let me know where you're coming from, and what you're grateful for, as I write one note down. Thank you. I'm talking to my tech team here. One more note I need to write here. Beep up up. Okay, great. Excellent. Let's see. It would be great if most of them at least tried. Oh, at least tried. I think that public, there was a doctrine that was like you have to have a balanced relationship. Like you can't be super biased in one direction or the other. When that doctrine fell, Fox News appeared. So there's that. So anyway, the point of it all is, okay, let's meditate. I guess it's also, I don't know why we're getting so political before the meditation, but I guess it's also that I think that certain, like when we talk about sides, I think that the instinct to, quote unquote, conserve or like keep things the way they are, or keep things the way we imagine they had been before, or get them back to some imagined ideal past, which I think is my read on what a lot of the sort of conservative drive is, often, not always. I think fear of having your way of life taken away is more motivating if that's your drive. And so if your drive is to create the world that is more fair and equitable, fear isn't a great driver, but fear is economically a much more powerful economic driver. So they've kind of got an advantage. So there's that. Okay, folks, speaking of having an advantage, let's give ourselves an advantage here by meditating for 25 minutes. So find a nice, comfortable position you can maintain for the duration of the sit. I just went into a whole thing about a whole set of things I was trying to say. Okay, don't worry about those things. Worry about this thing. Okay, so find that nice, comfortable position. I'm going to encourage no movement whatsoever. Now, I tell students a lot of time no movement, and I was teaching a class yesterday, and someone just happened to be highlighted because they were the last person to talk, and they were just like the whole time, just like... It wasn't like they adjusted and stopped. It was sort of like the whole time they were moving. And I was like, okay. So if possible, I'm really serious, just don't move. Don't move. Keep the body entirely still. If you have to move, do so slowly, mindfully. The one caveat is if you're feeling overwhelmed, you always want to listen to overwhelm, even if it's not too strong. You don't want to wait till it's big. Make an adjustment. Go ahead. Make a stretch. Do what that guy was doing. I don't think he's overwhelmed. I know him pretty well, so I think he was just a little fidgety. So find that position and we will begin. We're going to be doing, I feel like Will Alexander will like today's meditation. We're going to be staring into the void. So can I explain this? Is it worth explaining before we do the meditation? Okay, so there's an experience that I think is very closely related to emptiness, which is what I've in the past I've used this word for something else now. So I'm sort of anyway, this phrase is not this, and I mean this in a different case. This is global. This is existential, not this. And what that is that the mind can know. The mind knows things by contrast, right? So like right now my hand is moving on the screen, but if there were like 100 hands moving, you couldn't see, or you would be less likely to see this hand and the details. I mean, it's really obvious that my hand is here, and I'm trying to find it in darkness. Here we go. So my hand is moving, right? It's really obvious. But if it was all moving hands, like you wouldn't see this one very clearly, right? So it's because of the contrast that you can see this clearly, right? If my hand was just one color, right? You wouldn't see, and the whole rest of the screen was the same color, there'd be no contrast, you wouldn't see it. The mind experiences things through contrast. The ultimate contrast is the non-existence of what we're experiencing. This exists. It has this quality of being here right now. This experience feels like it is here. That, as weird as it sounds, that has embedded within it, by its nature, of it not being here, a knowledge and awareness that this is appearing, so it wasn't here a second ago, it will not be here in a moment, and the mind knows that from experience. This will be gone. It is gone. It's like going away all the time. So we're going to be looking into the void, which we're going to call not this. And it's literally like, okay, there's this, right? What about not that? What about something else that is not this? And so there's just this other thing. So it sounds a little theoretical or heady or whatever, but it's pretty straightforward, actually. It's literally not whatever this is, it's not that. And that puts the mind in a place of looking into the void. If you're new to meditation, this is going to be very weird, but I have faith in you and your strength, and that you're not going to go crazy and run down the street with your clothes off. And it's going to be fun. Commit now. How long do you want to stay for the meditation? And forever hold your pizza. And when you're ready, we'll begin. Oh wait, Nick says, oh wait, because we'll get back to that because that's more news stuff. We'll begin. Here we go. Beginning by taking a few comfortable deep breaths. Just feeling the body rise and fall. Each time we begin a meditation, we begin with the momentum of all the previous moments. So if the mind was unconscious or floating around, drifting half in, half out a moment ago, it's more likely to be so in this moment. So when we say really arrive, part of what we're saying is recognize that this is exactly what's happening. This experience is occurring. Don't let the mind produce some representation of this moment. And if it does, simply recognizing that representation is exactly what it is. It's just a picture. And noticing this as you relax the head and neck, and the shoulders and arms, and relaxing the hands. Letting go of any attempt to control the breath, just letting the body breathe as it will. As you relax the torso, relax the hips, the upper legs, the knees and calves, and relaxing the feet. And then relaxing all of the body together. As though the body were one continuous muscle, just letting all of it go. just to take in all of our experience. So not trying to reach out and grab every little bit of sense data that's occurring, but allowing the mind to function a little like a lantern, just shining in all directions. Allowing whatever is present to be known by the mind. It is this. That's the experience. It's this. And each time we label our experience, remember that that word is defined by precisely this set of sensations at precisely this moment. It's a new combination every time, so don't use the word lightly when you label this. Truly being with precisely this. Whatever constellation of sense data is present, whether it's pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. Seeing, hearing, feeling, attention, or awareness. In any given moment, we're labeling it as this. There's a kind of fullness to the experience. It's everything that happens to be easily entering awareness at this moment. Labeling our overall experience as this. Soaking in to this unique constellation. Letting go as though time was just restarting again. And asking our senses, asking our awareness, what am I experiencing? Finding our way back to the answer, yes, it is precisely this. as we explore this, we may find that we have access to a sense of all of this being gone, disappearing. All of this presentness collapsing. The end of this. If that void, that inky black nothing arises, we simply can label or experience it without a label. But if we choose to label, we'll call it not this. So either one is fine, either a sense of this or a sense of not this. This isn't something to think about if we find that the mind is trying to figure this out. What could that possibly mean? Where is it? Searching, thinking. That's just more mind activity. If that's the case, maybe we just stick with precisely this. And sometimes simply looking at this and labeling it as not this is enough for the mind to open to something else, something intangible, something that cannot be understood because it's pre-linguistic. In which case, labeling this emptiness as not this. To be open to the void is to a tiny degree allow ourselves to die. And all of the drives within us that crave to exist need to be willing to let go, if only for an instant. If we can partially let go but can't fully let go, can ask, let go into what? Often, the last burr that's hanging on is the doing self, or the observer. Remembering that your observer is an example of part of this. So, even allowing the observer to be eaten up, emptied out, erased. Not this. Of course, if this is not something we're used to experiencing, it can seem very remote, confusing, or even if we are, perhaps it's just not so familiar. But know that this is not hard. This is an ordinary part of experiencing. The void isn't somewhere else. It's all throughout. Our awareness knows the experience innately. So making a slight transition, rather than looking at both this and not this, just labeling not this. What is the experience of whatever is occurring right now not being here anymore? And the mind and awareness will just know. sleep deeply at night, we stop existing, at least from our first person perspective. And we frequently know the experience of reappearing as we begin to wake up. Ah, yes, I remember having a body. I remember a sense of a narrative of my life, things I need to do. All that is what we've been describing as this. But what about the void? Those times when we just don't exist. Not imagining, not trying to conjure. We know, we already know. In part, we're simply giving permission. For all or part of our experience to not need to exist anymore. All that work, efforting to exist, we can finally rest. Staying with the practice, staying in stillness, recognizing that at first the mind sees these experiences as contrasting, this and not this. But they are deeply embedded. So as you allow a tiny bit of light to enter the eyes, eventually allowing the eyes to rest on a single point, notice that the part of experience that is existing is blended, is shot through with a deep absence, a deep emptiness, a void. And that way, letting this particular moment be the great teacher. It shows us how we might bring this practice into every aspect of our life. Okay. Making an adjustments you need to allow the body to be comfortable. Welcome, cats from space. We're just finishing out our meditation here. Wait a minute. I believe it's cats from space first time here. So as you're unplugging from the emptiness, or actually don't unplug from the emptiness, stay with that emptiness. We'd like to greet you there, cats from space. Very delighted to have you here. Doink. Great to have you here. Thank you for joining us, cats from space. Okay, folks, so hit me with reports. Reports have been a little thin on the ground lately. People are like, what happened? Which is the only ammunition I have as a teacher is your voice, your reports, what happened. So hit me with those reports. Nick, I'm talking to you. Hit me with that report now and not in, 15 minutes. Of course, I'm talking to everybody, but I do have some advice for panic attack. I was just talking to somebody about this yesterday. Okay, so technical team, this is the beginning of a subject. Do I have any advice for panic attacks? Yes, I do. So one thing I want to say is you can deconstruct panic attacks. If you think that you cannot, then you just don't have experience deconstructing panic attacks. It's 100% possible, and we're going to talk about a number of strategies to get there. Some of these have been studied, and they work really well through studies. Some of these have not been studied, and so, this is a personal experience, anecdote, etc. So one piece of the pie is what's called box breathing. So you're going to try, this is how to slow down the nervous system, trigger the parasympathetic nervous system. Breathe in for 7 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, breathe out for 7 seconds, hold that out breath for 4 seconds. Breathe in for 7, hold 4, out 7, hold 4. So it's 7, 4, 7, 4, 7, 4, 7, 4. If you do that, about 5 minutes later, you'll start to feel the whole system calming down. 20 minutes later, the liver will clear all of the stress hormones, and it will stop re-triggering, because that's the problem, is that because there's still stress hormones going, you'll sort of calm down, do something for a couple minutes, okay, this is good, and they'll still be like, wait a minute. So that's what I'd recommend. That's tip number 1. There's like dozens of tips. Tip number 2 is that a lot of the techniques to work with panic attacks are about getting our focus away from the throat, chest, belly, sort of central core of the body, which tends to get really, So a lot of the techniques are like feel your feet on the ground, feel the sensations of your feet on the ground, clench your toes, really, really feel that, clench your toes, right? Put your hands way out here in the distance and, like feel your hands, really feel them, grab something in the texture and really feel the cold of something, right? Getting away from this core. Look at the room around you. I don't know if anyone watched Better Call Saul, but they use in that video, in that show, they use a technique which is actually a real technique where the guy's having a panic attack and he's naming objects and naming their color. Again, you're finding some way to focus out, away from what you're experiencing. Name the object and the color. Another thing you can do is actually soak in and be like, what is it really, when you name the object, okay, it's a red cup, right? I have my cup, red cup, but what is it like to look at red? Like, what is the experience of that? What is it really like experientially to look at red as opposed to some other color? Because it is different to look at red than it is to look at some other color. So what is that experience? So you're just sort of focusing a little bit, next object, you can sort of move around it like that. Other ways to do that are to physically sort of get the system doing something, physical, take a walk, do something that requires the body's motor function, anything that will be stimulating experientially that is not, again, about the thought pattern that's looping with the emotions that is creating a panic attack. And then finally, I would say that talking to somebody else, again, is an external focus. Talking about what you're experiencing, but talking about what they're experiencing, like talking, what's going on. Hey, this is a challenging thing for me. Do you have experience with this? And really trying to focus on what's happening for them. These are all great techniques for working with panic attacks. I want you to try those. Come back soon and tell me what your experience was like. Okay, folks, we're opening up here. Any questions, quandaries, comments, queries, challenges, or concerns? Or maybe we should say questions, quandaries, comments, koans, challenges, or concerns, as per Nick's suggestion last time. What happened? What do you like? What happened? What do you like? Wait, why am I forgetting this? What? I don't remember. Tell me a report. What the hell happened? Okay, so we're going to hit the Discord and the chat if you want to jump in and chit-chat like kitty cats. We can do that. And then we'll go from there. There's too many channels in my Discord. Oops. Okay, I was in there the whole time. I'm now a speaker. Okay, great. Here's the link. Link is here. If you want to jump on Discord and chat. Okay, folks, hit me. Okay, comments, question, queries, challenges, quandaries, or life concerns. Okay, we're going to jump to the computer voice to read. This is the voice that Nick hates, but we'll live with it. Oh yeah, he's going to change the voice.
That felt really good. It felt spacious but not spacey. Not this felt like a bit of a mantra against the void. This may be a dumb question, but do we have a dictionary definition of the void?
Well, different religions and different traditions will describe it very differently because we're talking about something pre-linguistic. As we sort of get into like weirder and weirder territory, it all is, it becomes, people say like, oh, these spiritual experiences are ineffable, like meaning you can't describe it. But part of the reason it's ineffable is we're actually using the reflective part of the brain that can look back at things, that can observe things from sort of an outside, larger point of view. We're using those to like look at experiences that are, it's the emotional brain, or it's the, just to look at the entire functioning of the experience, which breaks down the linguistic process. You're going pre-linguistic, so it's very hard to describe. So there is, I wouldn't say there's a dictionary definition. I think Shinzen has a good essay on the void, but I don't know if it's describing what I'm describing. Anyway, would somebody look up Shinzen Young's essay on the void and just throw that in the chat? And maybe if you throw the link in there, we'll look at it ourselves in just a second here. Let's look at some of these reports. Let's hit it.
I wasn't sure about what I was focusing on the not this side of things. After the meditations, could you begin with a quick review of what it was that we just did? This might be a helpful prompt to get people focused and to give reports.
That's great. That's true, because I feel like sometimes we just like erase what just happened. So in this case, what we just did was we looked at our sense of, our totality of experiencing, which we're calling this. It has a thisness, a presentness. There's a sense that this is here. It's a phenomenological sort of trick that there's a presentness quality of all these things. They feel like they are here. It's so such a powerful message that even questioning that is hard for the mind to do. Hence the sort of challenge in translating this, as we've talked about. What I would say is all of this stuff is here. Oh yeah, I mean, you can do it right now. Like, look at your experience and think, what if this is an illusion? What if this actually isn't here? Don't worry about the implications, like, oh my God, like, what will I do? Like, I'm in the Matrix. But like, experientially, what if this isn't here? And you'll see that I should have used that during the meditation. I just sort of discovered that just now. What if this isn't real? Right? Experientially, it sort of has this like, well, yeah, this part of my mind is saying, yes, this is real, and then to see that it's not real. Now, this sounds, woo-woo, mystical, schmystical, like I'm like, oh, reality is not here, etc. We're talking about first-person perspective, perceptual material. So I'm not denying that there is material, physical, data in the world. There is matter. Matter exists. The world, as we experience it, is it's a construct of the mind. So I don't want to say, I've known people who've been like, no, this is all a projection of my mind, which I think is like very solipsistic and very like, I was always like rude when people, I knew one person is like, no, you don't exist. You're a figment of my imagination. I'm like, cool. It seems very rude, but I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that what we think is the world is a projection of the mind. The mind is producing a sense of world and the narratives and all these things. And it's just not that. That is an illusion, and it's helpful. It's a helpful illusion. It helps us get, food on the table, and it helps us, live our lives. And especially, the main thing it does is help us pass genetic material forward onto another generation. That is the function of that part of the mind. So hopefully that helps clarify what we just did. We explored this and not this. What's happening here? Oh my God. Not what I wanted. Okay. Oh, we have a report here from Has Been Illusion. Has Been Illusion, have you been here before? Okay, I'm not sure if Has Been Illusion has been here before. Tell me if you've been here before. If not, okay. Has Been Illusion says,
It started off well, with my mind being very calm, but as time went on I started to get a little overwhelmed from all the sensations in my body.
Great.
I started to calm down again towards the end when I started to see that there was a weird space between these sensations.
Great.
A space that arose as my mind went from one sensation to the other, and it seemed kind of infinite.
Great. So that is exactly, you're talking about the void in that case. And I'm curious what you did. I thought I recognized you, so welcome back. I'm curious what you did with the overwhelm, like how you handled it, because it's very important that we don't let overwhelm really because often we feel like I'm just going to fight it. And it's like, no, we want to listen. Like if we're a little overwhelmed, we can move a little, we can open the eyes, we can pause the meditation, like whatever it is. We're trying to train ourselves to be sensitive to those things. So that's great skill. And so there's two main movements of how to move towards what's called classical awakening. One move is to take in everything and to have there be a kind of merging where there's no inside or outside, there's no self in the world, and everything sort of melts in that way. The other one is to divide the world so thoroughly over and over and over and over and over again that all that remains is the space between things. You realize, oh wait, it's all just spacious also. So both of these end up showing us the same insights because all of perception is made of the same things. So hopefully that helps. Jean says,
I wasn't able to find the Shinzen thing by Googling Shinzen's essay on the void. Is there a more specific title?
Let me look real quick because I feel like I could find it if I just, okay. Here we go. Oh good, it's a short video. Let's watch this video together. Let's pull this tab out. It's called The Spirit of the Void. Very cool title, Shinzen. I have a feeling he might not have been the one who titled it, but we'll see. Okay. Monitor 2 is there. Okay, I think that's roughly in place. Let's give it a little more space so we can hang with Shinzen. Make sure the audio is cool. Okay, let's hit it. This is Spirit of the Void by Shinzen Young. There
we go. So, what prompted me to bring up that koan was this little fellow here, okay? Because I can't think of a better iconic representation of enlightenment than this.
Okay, I just want to let people know, you might not be able to see it, it might be too small. That is not a weird sex toy. That is a little Buddha on a spring. I know it seems like sort of obvious, but just wanted to clarify.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, it's fun, isn't it? It is fun. Why is it fun? Why do we like watching this? Okay. There is a reason. And it's called Helmholtz free energy. I'm reasonably sure. I would say that we all ride on a kind of effortless, just happeningness that is the nature of consciousness. So when I say the word emptiness within, say, the Buddhist context, what image comes to your mind?
I'm going to pause here for a second. So I just want to do a little commentary, is that the presentness of the way that reality feels very present, it's flowing, it's moving, it has this sort of like whole momentum to it. I think once you start to experience this, and again, I apologize if it's hard to locate, but again, the what if this isn't real, I think question is very good for the mind to actually see through that to some degree. It almost feels like it's riding on this big empty, it's like sure, there's a thisness, but there's this huge, deep, infinite not thisness, this emptiness that is surrounding it or everywhere around, everywhere. It's the sort of ground that it's on, and then over time you realize, oh, they're just totally mixed, like the presentness of this is shot through with that emptiness. So I don't know if that's where he's going, but
well, maybe an image of vastness. I would say that's not incorrect, but it's exactly half the picture. I think for a lot of people, when they hear Buddhists talk about emptiness, the image that comes to their mind is some sort of bleakness. It's like you bust your buns for 40 years on the cushion, and what do you have to show for it? Emptiness.
There's a teacher named Vince Horn, and he talks about how he was very disappointed when he experienced classical awakening, because he thought some part of him thought he was going to get something, but you literally get nothing. Like you really get a very deep experience of nothing, and that nothing is deeply liberating, but it's also a kind of, it's like a level of freedom that is very hard to describe. Again, we're getting into pre-linguistic territory, so forgive me if it sounds like, what the hell are you talking about?
It's like, what? Maybe that's another Rabbi and Roshi joke. The Roshi says we attain emptiness, and the Rabbi says that's garnish. Okay, you have to know Yiddish for that. Garnished means bubkas. It means who wants that? It's nothing. Okay. Okay. However, when I first encountered the word emptiness,
I just want to, the play on words there is that it's a word that also means nothing, but it means nothing in a pejorative. So it's the Buddha says, oh, you get emptiness, and the rabbi says, well, that's basically like, well, that's bullshit. Like that's nothing, and it means nothing. So that's the joke.
I was a student of Buddhism academically. Dongbanyin in Tibetan, Shunyata in Sanskrit, Kong in Mandarin Chinese, Ku in Sino-Japanese. I knew it in many Asian languages. It was just this weird idea that I didn't have any image of. It's like, what the heck? As I say, a lot of people probably think of bleakness. Some people think of vastness. But the reason I so like this little tchotchke that Charlie brought is, for many, many years now, when I use the word emptiness and when I hear the word emptiness within the Buddhist context, this is exactly what my image is. Bounciness. springiness. In 1660, Robert Boyle wrote a foundational work on pressure, and a year later he wrote a foundational work on chemistry, which interestingly he called The Skeptical Chemist. It was a scathing critique of Aristotelian and Paracelsian alchemy, essentially, and is thought of as the beginning of modern chemistry. But the year before he wrote that, he wrote something that was subtitled, and I just love the title of this, Touching the Spring of the Air. That's how they, back in those days, talked about pressure. Is like, you know, it's like the springiness of the air, touching the spring of the air. And that is what the experience of emptiness is for me as a meditative experience.
So I want to pause. I want to pause there. So this is such a good metaphor. I haven't heard this before actually from Shinzen, but right now, this is a great way because you could look at these as separate and then eventually see them as together, or you could look at them as separate and together simultaneously. Separate and together is what we did today. Look, there's the fullness, the presentness of reality, and then look at the voidness of it. But what Shinzen is talking about is both simultaneously, which is another great venue to get there. It can feel a little more complicated, but if you right now tune into like air, you know, they talk when in chemistry, they talk about the springiness of the air, like you put air under pressure and it has its own like quality. Try to take in like the air pressure that is sort of here. There is a pressure that's occurring. And of course, this is like a trick of the mind. You can't perceive that directly, but the mind can sort of like hold itself in this open way, and to recognize that as actually forces that are pushing and pulling. That's why it holds in this way. It's like two forces. It's not just one force. It's two things that are actually like pushing and pulling. So it's like this dynamic relationship. Now, I don't know if it's just because I've experienced this a lot that makes it really easy to experience, or if that's really easy for other people to access. So let's hear what he says in the last, what is it, like 30 seconds or so.
It's directly touching the spring of the void. And so I just mentioned this as something to know about.
So I wanted to also mention that basic mindfulness is not a thing anymore. It's shinzenyoung.org is the place to go. So let's turn off this other monitor. So in terms of Shinzen and what he just said, springiness. Oh yeah, keep in mind the context here. People are on retreat. They've been practicing for days and days and days, like hours and hours and hours. And you can just mention this stuff. Like think about the fact that it's, you know, here and not here at the same time, and the mind will just sort of open and see that. So know that for our daily lives, we have to hold things together. We've got to get this done. So sometimes it's harder to see, but you know, there it is. Any comments or questions about that? And if so, hit me now. I will answer Nate's question. Is there going to be a book? Are you doing the book club? Is there information anywhere? No, and keep pressuring me to do the book club, because then I'll do it, and then we'll go from there. But right now, it's just like haven't done it. It's also going to be a pretty big format change, so I'm trying to decide like how aggressively do I want to do that? Do I want to do it every day of the week? Do I want to do something else? Do I want to outreach it? But we should test some book club things soon and see if it's fun. We also open to suggestions on what meditative book we would explore. The one I was going to explore, Nick's probably right, it might be just too philosophical, because it's very theoretical, and how the philosophy of emptiness and non-duality has shown up all throughout different traditions, including Christianity and Greek philosophy, etc. Might be awesome, but might be too heady, so maybe we'll give that a try and see if that works. And then we'll go from there. Any other questions, comments, queries, quandaries, challenges, or life concerns? Nick, hitting us with a late comment. Nick, this is the time for your comments. All comments must come in now. You are on a deadline. Thank you for this most recent comment. Nick says the following.
Don't wait for a report from me cause I don't have one. Had take a long call on my work cell, can't put it on silence because I'm still on the clock until right now. Yay, dang, missed the Shinzen videos. I'll catch the replay. That book is really bringing my headspace to warp speed, lol.
Oh, okay, so Nick, you're reading the book. Excellent. I basically barely started it. I just read the introduction. So tell me if you think that like it would fit. Like it's not too like head think world. Well, we can give it a try anyway. But I'd be curious what you think. Nick also says the following.
Jumping in the very minute of getting out from a meeting with some accountant guys makes for a nice loud turbulent mind circus, and it's still hanging around when it's not really needed anymore. Fragmenting this. Trying to compulsively interpret everything and in a weird way guide you but also put you down a bit. Okay. Don't forget you're annoyed at this person, remember to send that mail, and don't be too silly when the boss comes around, blah blah. You wanna say thanks, Dad.
Okay, I got confused there in the minute. At the beginning, I was like, wait, are you saying that I'm saying this? So this is your mind talking. I'm going to play that again. Your mind is saying...
Trying to compulsively interpret everything and in a weird way guide you, but also put you down a bit. Okay. Don't forget you're annoyed at this person, remember to send that mail, and don't be too silly when the boss comes around, blah blah. You want to say thanks, Dad.
Yeah. Well, it's the different parts of us, and it sounds like an executive part that's like trying to manage all this stuff, and you know, there's lots of different parts and
Can't
pieces.
close the door because the door isn't here anymore.
There you go. The book is Non-Duality by David Lloyd, but also he has 2 editions, and there's a more recent one. So we're talking about the more recent one. So, okay, folks, hit me right in this very moment with a follow if you haven't followed already. We have lots of fun content coming soon. And what else? Yeah, I don't know. Anything else in the world? Okay, so folks, let's hit ourselves here with the outro. Let's listen to a little music. Oh wait, I turned the music off here. Let's turn the music back on. Okay, folks, lovely as always to be here with you. Thank you so much for coming. Nick says, have to make it a few pages in. Okay, you're talking about the book. Okay, great. Yeah, let us know. Folks, right in this particular moment, notice the presentness of your experience. Notice its absence. This is something the mind can do on its own. What if this wasn't real? What if this isn't here? What if all of this is actually gone right now? In a sense, we're looking at the idea of gone in Shinzen system. So letting yourself know that you can practice this in any aspect of your life. And then also noticing that this goneness, this emptiness is spacious, welcoming. It doesn't need you to be somebody or do something. It's just freeing in a certain way. Connecting with that. And of course, folks, as always, practice well, take care of each other. We'll see you back here in fewer than 48 hours. Have fun, and we'll see you very, very soon.